Howdy guys and gals, I'm Kyle Broderick. Welcome to the Social Regressive. In the last video in this series, which also happens to be the first video in this series, we teased the concept of a Scout AR-15. The Scout rifle concept is one developed by Jeff Cooper. It's designed to be lightweight, hard-hitting, compact, handy, easy to stow, easy to carry, easy to get out in the field and do good work with, something that can be functional within a distance anywhere from 0 to about 450 yards. So what we're doing here is we are making an AR-15 that kind of runs along that concept, and all the parts are in this box. In just a moment, we're going to jump in here and see what parts are in this mystery box and how they're going to adhere to that concept and how they're going to make a good functional AR-15 overall. First, I wanted to thank the manufacturers that have made this possible. Also, thank you to patrons of the Destructive Arts out on Patreon. You guys are making these videos possible. If anybody else wants to chip in $1 or $2 a month to keep these videos coming, I'll put a link to Patreon. But thanks a lot to Sportsman's Guide at the 338 Lapua Magnum level and Peter at 300 Win Mag. All right, let's go ahead and see what's in the box. There it is, all laid out like Christmas morning. Now let's pick an end to start from. Let's do the action. Let's start with the functional moving parts. All right, so right here we have a CMMG basic lower. I didn't realize before I started building this project that CMMG had so many just regular AR parts, and actually at some really good prices. This is the lower right here. It's going to be attached to an Anderson upper that I've had laying around in my office for a while. I was looking for a project, and then this one came along, so it's a very happy upper. To kind of fill out some of the mechanical bits right here, let's take a look at the bolt carrier and bolt. This is a full assembly right here from CMMG. You're going to see that I have a lot of the functional parts as CMMG parts, like this charging handle right here. This is one of the ambidextrous ones with the giant wings on it, and I really, really wanted this since the Scout AR needs to be functional in hunting situations, especially close range ones. I was actually out hunting squirrels a little while back, and we just kind of bumped into a bunch of hogs. Thankfully, no really big ones that were angry or anything, but I want a rifle that's going to be very quick to get into action, and this charging handle is going to be a great one. But yeah, that's another CMMG. And one of the reasons why I went with CMMG on most of the mechanical parts is that, well, first off, I shot that CMMG Mark III DTR2 and was blown away by its performance, its reliability, and its extreme accuracy. That's the one that we've nailed targets at a mile with. And yeah, also these should play very well together. Instead of kind of cobbling different parts and just kind of hoping that they all made up really well, I know that these are going to perform really well together. And that includes the barrel over here. So this is a 16.1 inch barrel or 16.25, whatever these come out. It's basically a 16-inch barrel, and this one is somewhat on the slim side. Remember that this is a Scout. I want to be able to keep this lightweight, so I'm not going to get some kind of H-bar that has a really thick section of barrel back here. Overall, this is very slim, and this has a 1-in-7 twist. So you might be wondering why I went with 223 rather than maybe building an AR-10 or maybe a 6.5 Grendel or something that's going to hit a lot harder. One of the things that Jeff Cooper wanted with a Scout rifle is he wanted a rifle that would be able to take any North American game. I am deviating from that, partly because I want to keep this whole build really lightweight. I also want to kind of keep it economical, and some of the game that I will be hunting in my area is going to be pretty close range, and it's not going to be all that huge. I think that 223 with a heavy bullet, like a 75 or a 77 grain bullet, hence that 1-in-7 twist that I chose on this guy, is going to get the job done. At close range hogs, it's going to take care of them pretty well, and this should be just fine for deer if I wanted to do that. And for anything else like coyotes, whatever else we might want to call in, yeah, this is going to get the job done. For target shooting, it's going to be a lot of fun too. So moving along into, okay, we're going to work a little bit backward with the mechanical parts. Back here on the back, we have the AR-15 Tact Light. This is from ATI. I talked to the guys at ATI out at their Rack Veteran 8888 booth and, got to try out some of their material, and I really like this. This is very lightweight overall. I'll put an annotation here to the overall weight of this, but this includes buffer, spring, the tube, and the stock itself. And you can get a rubber butt pad on the back here if you want. Just to keep things light, I'm going to go ahead and leave this as is, and you can see that I've chosen this wonderful tan color that's going to correspond really well with this. This grip is one that I've been wanting to test for a couple of years now, and I just haven't really had an AR build in the future that I was really excited about. So now that we have this Scout, I finally get to test this guy out. You can see that it has this kind of funky hump back here, and this is actually this is the thing that sells it for me. This is all plastic through here. It has rubber on the back, but here's the deal. With a good pistol grip, your hand is going to be cradled right back here. Like say you're holding a Glock or your 1911 or whatever. You kind of have this beaver tail sort of thing sticking out here on the back, and your hand just naturally aligns perfectly with the trigger. So this is going to be just awesome. I tried this out at the show, love this, and I think I'm going to highly recommend it. It's just going to put the hand exactly where you want it to get the trigger finger on the trigger. And you can see a picture right here of what that's like when it's all connected. It looks a little bit weird, but my gosh, does it feel good. And you can see that with the two-tone, we got the tans going right there. This is going to look really sweet. All right, so let's talk about that trigger since we're kind of down in that area. And I talked to the guys out at Rise Armament. They're actually right here in town. And I guess probably about 5 years ago, I checked out one of their triggers, which was their RA535, which is one of the sweetest triggers on the planet. I was just blown away by it. A 3.5 pound pull, single stage, and the crispest AR-15 trigger that I've ever tried that was not a two-stage. I have a wonderful two-stage in my AR that I usually shoot, but this is a single stage, which makes this extra special. I can feel no creep on this. My fingers are pretty well tuned to triggers by this point. I can feel absolutely no creep. At that 3.5 pound pull, it just breaks, tiny over travel, and this is actually a budget trigger. I wasn't necessarily going to go for budget parts on this. You can see overall I haven't really thought about price all that much, even though this is going to come out to be a pretty budget build. This comes in usually below $90 for this replacement trigger. And in order to get this in place, we're going to need some special pins. So these are the KNS precision pins. These are ones that are going to make sure everything locks in really nicely and that the pins don't walk out. One of my buddies' AR-15s, the pins keep wanting to walk out under fire, and these will definitely prevent that. These are an extra few bucks right here, but these are definitely worth it. Oh, and I should mention that in order to finish out the lower CMMG lower parts kit, there is a model that comes with a trigger as well. I went for the one that does not have a trigger because I knew I was going to get some awesome ones over here. But this is going to take care of all the little extra bits that we need. Oh, and I should mention that the other trigger that we might try out on this one is the LE145. This one has a higher pull. This has a 4.5 pound pull, and it seems to have more creep in it. This is one that's designed for law enforcement to be very safe. That heavier pull overall. This is a really slick trigger, but I'm going to go with the 140 just based on my testing. That thing rocks. All right, let's continue moving forward. Magazines. This is the Amend, and it continues with that great tan color that we're going to have here on the grip and the buttstock back here. And this is a polymer magazine designed to compete with the Magpul PMag and Lancers and all that sort of stuff. This is polymer all the way up and down. It should have a really good follower in it. I've heard good things about these mags, and I'm going to test a few and see how they perform for me. Now, some of the other parts, oh yeah, up front on the furniture, we have the ATI AR-15 Strike Force. This is extremely lightweight. You can see that it is milled out everywhere. This has gigantic holes in it. It's M-LOK along the sides and the bottom, Picatinny at the top, and you can see that even the barrel nut itself has been milled out to make this lighter overall. So we're going, with a scout rifle, you start to get into issues because you have a scope mounted toward the front of the gun. The scope is actually going to be sitting on top of this rail and not back here on the top of the receiver right back here. So I want to keep as much weight off the front as I can get, and this should get the job done. This is going to work out really well. This is a 15-incher right here, and just feeling this at the show felt great. So finishing out some of the kind of front end parts, of course we're going to need a gas tube. This is a mid-length barrel, I should point out. This is not even though it's a carbine barrel, it doesn't have the carbine gas port, it's mid-length. Which means that it's going to put that gas port a little further toward the front of the gun, and it's going to get a little bit better recoil impulse overall. Pressures will be a little bit lower. And yeah, this is the gas tube that goes with that. This is the gas block. I went with one of these slimline ones from CMMG. Again, I'm making sure that I'm using one manufacturer for a lot of these mechanical parts in order to ensure that they all work together really well. And this is going to fit under this handguard quite nicely. And then we have the upper completion kit. And that kind of finishes out the mechanical parts for this whole build. Up at the very front, I'm going to put this extra YHM flash hider right here. This is not just a flash hider, but it is an adapter for my silencer. I have a titanium silencer that if I ever want to go out and shoot quietly, I can in Oklahoma now. It's actually allowed. That's kind of cool. Now for the sighting system. Not just because Jeff Cooper wants me to, but because I want to. We're going to have some really good iron sights on here. A lot of people kind of forget about the iron sights on an AR, thinking that these are just kind of ancillary parts and that the scope is the important one. I consider it the other way around. An M16, an M4, an AR-15, the basic sights on those rifles needs to be the irons. You got to learn how to use these. These are what the rifle was designed with in the beginning. These are ones that you can rely on probably more than your scopes overall, just because there are so many moving parts on those. So many points of failure. These are the ones that I want to always be practicing with. And what we're looking at right here, these are the Ultradyne C4 folding sights. And these are really strange. These sights, front and rear, are very unique. You can see that, all right, this looks like a typical flip sight. It's going to lay down quite flat. You can see that it's quite thin. And then it has the usual aperture at the back. But this one has a few tricks to it. This knob right here allows you to adjust your elevation based on distance. So there's 200 yards, 250, 300, and then all the way around to 600 yards, which is a good range for an AR-15 or AR-10 sight, because those rifles definitely will shoot at 600 yards with iron sights. This is one where you can also adjust your windage. So right here, this little knob right here, very easy to turn. You just get this all squared away, and then you can adjust this little by little. This is actually on a cam right here. This does not actually raise the sight equally based on each of these notches. It is designed to work with 5.56 ballistics. The front sight is the really strange looking one. You can see that it has a post that is kind of like an AR-15 post, but it has a hole drilled through the center of it. It has kind of that knob in the middle and then a hole drilled through. That way this can not only act like an AR-15 sight with that post, and you put your target above it, but you can actually look through like the kind of peep sights that you would get on a biathlon rifle or other kind of target rifle, and you can still see your target through the center. I've used those biathlon sights before, and they are very precise, and I'm going to see how this works here. I did a little teaser at the Iraq Veteran 8888 shoot. I got to try these, liked them a whole lot. This has some really slick features as well. This also folds extremely flat. This is adjustable for both windage and elevation. And the way that you do elevation is totally toolless. You just press down on this shroud, and then you can turn the post by hand. Pretty cool. I also have an extra post that I'm going to swap onto here if I want to. This is one of their smaller ones. I got a larger one just in case I want to do more close quarters sort of work. And now for the most noticeable part of a scout rifle, that forward mounted scope. This is the Nikon Force XR. There are a couple in this range. There's a 2.5 to 8, and there is a fixed 2 power or 2.5 power. I can't remember right now. You should check out their catalog. They have a couple of these that are designed for handguns or for extended eye relief on rifles like this. And I chose this one, the 2.5 to 8, because of its reticle. This uses, you can see that we have the Spot On logo, which is designed for their ballistic compensating reticles. This one actually does have a ballistic compensator. Normally, for long-range work, I am not a fan of ballistic drop compensating reticles, but I think that this is perfect for this. For certain practical rifles where you want to be able to take shots within some of those kind of closer ranges, hunting, etc., I think that a BDC reticle is a wonderful idea. It's going to give you your drops automatically, and you don't have to be counting up your mils in your reticle or anything like that. And it's certainly a step up from a simple crosshair. So yeah, this one right here, 2.5 to 8 power. So we do have that low power that Jeff Cooper wanted, and we can leave it there if we want. But if we want to step up and be able to make some more precise shots, say on coyotes at a little bit longer distance, we can crank this puppy up to 8, and we can extend the capabilities of this scope. I've taken a look through here already, and this, it looks wonderful. The glass is great. I haven't noticed any kind of issues with precision falling off at the edges. Sometimes resolution can be lost a little bit as you get toward the edges. We'll see as I do a full review of this. But I think this is going to be a perfect scope for this. It's rather lightweight overall, even for a variable. If you want to make sure that your weight is even lower, and especially since it is sitting out on the front of the gun, out on the handguard, you might want to go with maybe that fixed 2 power. Check out that model. I haven't decided what mount to put under this yet. I have some scope rings to play with. I might do a pair of high rings. I might do one of the basic AR one-piece mounts. We'll see where I go with this. And now for carriage. I need a sling for this so I can have it handy. I can have it behind my back if I want to be able to use both my hands or just kind of be able to hang it around. Also, I can get more stability off a sling. So what I went with right here is the Grovtech Quick Adjust Tactical Sling. You see that I get it in tan so that I can match it up with the rest of the rifle, and it just looks kind of cool. But Grovtech has a whole bunch of really neat parts. You got to go check out their catalog. It is absolutely gigantic. Made in the USA parts of all kinds of adapters. If you're looking for your Picatinny adapters for M-LOK or anything like that, there you go. Here are a couple that I'm going to be testing out. I'm not sure exactly which one of these I'm going to go with in the end, so I got 2 different models. This is a Picatinny right here that has a couple of QD slots. This is a QD sling right here, so it has those little kind of push button attachment points, and it can either go into this and I can have some extra rail if I want to run a bipod at some point, or if I want to go extremely lightweight, this tiny little thing is a QD socket. And this weighs just about nothing. Seriously, the only weight in this package is that wrench, the steel in that wrench. If I were to take that out, it feels like absolutely nothing. That little thing is super duper lightweight. So if I do end up with kind of a front heavy gun like this might end up, I'll probably stick with this. But then if I want to kind of get into action with a bipod, maybe do some coyote hunting or whatever, I'll slap this guy on there. Aside from consumables like brass, bullets, ammunition powder, things like that, I do want to figure out one more thing about this rifle. I've had issues in the past shooting suppressed and in different temperatures with different kinds of greases and whatever. Also, we want to have a good way to clean this thing since it's going to be a hard use gun and it's going to get pretty messy. But yeah, in the past I've had difficulties with greases freezing up on me in cold weather, and then also having issues with suppressors, if I run suppressed, blowing oil back in my face. So some of the elements inside this modern Spartan systems, like the accuracy oil and this accuracy grease down here, these are supposed to fix those problems. They're not supposed to freeze in extreme cold, and also this is not going to spray back up into my face if I'm shooting suppressed. So I'm definitely going to be relying on this whole kit for cleanup and for lubrication on this gun. I'm going to test it on a couple other guns as well. All right, that's the Skinny. All of these parts are going to go into one rifle that I really hope to keep small and lightweight. It doesn't seem possible with all the things that are sitting on this bench right now, but I think in the end, we are going to end up with a lightweight, really squared away rifle. I really hope that you guys will build along with me. Do a similar project. I'm really curious to see what you guys come up with. And one of the things that you might want to choose, there are a couple of variances that you might want to go with on some of these various parts and just the rifle overall. You might want to go with an SBR with a very short barrel. That makes a whole lot of sense. It's going to be even smaller and lighter than what we're building here. Of course, you do have the tax stamp and the massive wait time, so that's kind of a pain in the neck. You might go with different sights. There are all kinds of great iron sights out there. I'm going to see how these work out. I think they're going to be pretty awesome and really quick to get on target, but you can definitely head in another direction there. When it comes to scopes, there aren't many options for extended eye relief scopes, and this is one that I'm going to highly recommend, I believe. We'll see based on usage here, but I think this one is going to be really, really good. As far as the total rifle though, some things to think about. You might look at an AR-10 so you can get that .308 caliber, something that's heavier hitting than .223, or even if you stick with an AR-15, you might go with something with a little bit more thump. A lot of people might want to look at .300 Blackout, and that actually does make a lot of sense. It is a bigger bullet, but then when you take a look at its actual ballistics and its energy on target, the energy on target is slightly raised at your closer distances, but then as you back up, you're going to get a much less efficient bullet than that 75 or 77 that I'm going to be shooting in this, and you're actually going to have a much worse trajectory and possibly less energy on target. So I don't know about that one, but 6.5 Grendel might be a good choice. Of course, there are some of the big ones like 450 Bushmaster and 458 SOCOM, but remember that the ballistics on those are also going to be inferior. They're going to drop a lot faster. So if you know your own terrain, if you know that you're going to be shooting at close range rather than kind of longer targets, and you know what you're going to be shooting at, there are a bunch of different options. Let me know what you guys do. I really want to hear how your build goes if you head in this direction.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These two videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, The Social Regressive is on Patreon. So you can become a patron of the Destructive Arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.